lived a very sheltered life. We kept our own house. We kept our own tradition. We were strictly with Jewish people. We were strictly with the family. We were strictly in a Jewish school. My family were very, very wealthy. We had an awful lot of real estate there. We had our own gardener. We had our own servant. So our life there was quite good, I would say. What happened was that Shaul got married and he was so happy, so he brought his bride to England for their honeymoon. Basically, Shaul stayed to take care of the parents. We all left because we knew that that was not a place for us to be in for the future, and we wanted to continue our higher education. So I went to England, they went to America, and one brother went to Israel. We all left, and the only one that was left was Shaul to take care of the parents. Shaul was arrested in 1971. And they, according to my mother, they just came and took him. I had a girlfriend in England, and she told me that she heard that Shaul had passed. He died, and she sent me a sympathy card. So I said, what are you talking about? Shaul is alive, he's in jail, he's not dead. She said, yes, he died. I heard from England or some other news. That was the whole story, is he was the one who took care of all of us, who was kind, who made sure that we achieve our goal, while he gave his life for the good of the rest of the family. Unfortunately, they didn't know this would happen.
בוקר טוב, קהל נכבד. השבוע לפני 57 שנים, ב-1969, ב-27 בינואר, חרב עולמה של הקהילה שלנו, כאשר 9 יהודים הוצאו להורג בכיכר התחריר בבגדד. לכל צהלות ההמון שחגג את המאורע המבעית. מסתבר שלרוע ולשנאה אין סוף. באותה תקופה אפלה של שלטון הבעת' וסדאם חוסיין, נרצחו, נחטפו ונעלמו עשרות יהודים. אחד מהם, שאול שמש, השם ייקום דמו, שנלקח מביתו באוקטובר 1972, וגורלו לא נודע. לזכרו של שאול שמש ובזכות תרומתה הנדיבה של אחותו סמרה שמש גוטליב, הקמנו את התערוכה החדשה סופה של גולה, והפקנו את הסרט שעון החול. אנחנו מודים להם מעומק הלב על שאפשרו לנו להביא את סיפור סופה של גולה לציבור הרחב ולדורות הבאים. אני מתכבדת להזמין את יושב ראש מרכז מורשת יהדות בבל, פרופסור עוזי רבי.
אני באמת מתרגש להיות כאן. תרשו לי בהתחלה לפנות לאורחים שלנו באנגלית. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is a great pleasure to have you all here this morning. I would like first of all to convey my great appreciation to Marsha, Felix, and their family, the Shamash family. Thank you for attending this morning, being with us here. This is a very, very memorable event, and I think that we all are going to both learn and glean some conclusions about the way the Iraqi Jewry actually experienced some chapters in Iraq. Second, I would like to just express my gratitude to Samra Shamash, which actually supported us immensely. Without her support, all of this wouldn't have come to fruition. So thank you, Samra. I know that you would see, this whole event later on. and I hope that you will find it really honorable and you will be satisfied with that. What we are trying to do here today, guys, ladies and gentlemen, is just to save kind of a lost chapter in the history of Jews in Iraq and to bring it into eternity. Just simple as that. This is the bottom line of this event.
We are honored to welcome Dr. Felix Shamash, Marsha, and the family. It is a privilege to launch this project in memory of your father, Shaul Shamash, Hashem Yikom Damo. We deeply appreciate your dedication and the generosity of Dr. Bernard and Samra Shamash Gottlieb. Felix, please.
Thank you for the privilege to speak today at this event, marking the 57th anniversary of a dark day in Iraqi Jewish history. On January 27, 1969, 9 Jews were executed and their bodies were displayed in a public square in Baghdad. Baghdad, Sunday evening, January 26, 1969, the night before. The neighborhood roads were eerily empty. No cars, no pedestrians. People were glued to their TVs and their radios. Okay. The last trial of the spies of Israel and US was being broadcasted. I was 12 years old at the time, watching the proceedings on TV with my parents. I was horrified and scared. The 15 men were tried. They were in a cage. 9 of them were Jews, 2 Christians, and 3 Muslims. One of them was a 16-year-old Jewish boy. I don't remember the details, but I do remember a friend of my parents, Charles Horesh, Allahu Shalom, resolutely answering the judge that the only reason he was being tried was because he was a Jew. The first trial had been broadcasted on TV, Iraqi TV, 22 days earlier. In retrospect, I wonder how and when the international community became aware of what was going on and why nothing was done. At dawn the next morning, January 27, these 15 men were executed in jail by hanging. Their bodies were then publicly displayed, hanging from the gallows along the perimeter of Tahrir Square in central Baghdad. That day was declared a national holiday. All public schools and all businesses were closed. 500,000 people gathered after being transported to this location. They danced around the corpses in celebration. This event was shown on TV all day long. While the details of this trial remain fuzzy in my mind, these images in that public square are seared in my memory. At some point, the bodies were released to their families. It seems that only then did the international community become aware of our plight. The Iraqi government tried to put a positive spin. Journalists from abroad were invited to showcase how the Jews were not being mistreated. The government actually brought a journalist or 2 from Europe on a guided visit to the Meir synagogue during prayers. This was the synagogue of my childhood. It was the only functioning synagogue where my father and a dozen or so others prayed twice daily. For obvious reasons, those who were interviewed could not express to the journalist negative sentiments or project a tormented existence. This museum, by the way, has recently acquired a rare footage of this charade. The Ba'ath Party took over governance of Iraq in 1963. The previous government from 1958 to 1963 was sympathetic to the minorities, including Jews. The Jewish population thrived during these 5 years. The new government, unfortunately, shifted gears. As of November 1963, Jews were not allowed to travel outside the country, amongst other restrictions. Furthermore, Iraqi Jews who were abroad were given an ultimatum. If they did not return by a particular date in late November, their real estate and belongings would be confiscated. My father's parents were abroad at the time, visiting their 6 sons and daughters who had previously emigrated to the United States. On a personal note, one of them was my Aunt Samra. My grandparents returned to Baghdad a few hours before the deadline. I remember the trip to the airport to pick them up and bring them home. The 1969 hangings made international news. However, the resulting global condemnation did not change the attitude of the government towards the Jews one iota. Instead, they no longer publicized their atrocities. The abductions, torture, and murder continued through 1973 and beyond in concentrated intervals. From 1968, the year the Ba'ath regime took full control, to 1973, more than 50 Jews were rounded up, incarcerated, tortured, and never heard from again. Others were jailed and mistreated for more than a year, and only a handful of men were set free. Few, if any, bodies were returned to their families. Baghdad, October 11, 1972. I came home from school in the afternoon and found a man in his 30s with a demeanor typical of the Secret Service, waiting at the outer door of our house. I went inside and found my parents and my 5-year-old brother visibly upset. My mother was crying. She told me, "They're taking your father away." My mother later recounted that when she went to answer the knock on the door, the man asked for my father. When he saw that she was frightened, he blurted out, "What are you upset about? We're not going to go hang him." My father gathered a blanket and a toothbrush. He stepped out of the house to accompany the man. Goodbyes were never exchanged. I went upstairs to look out the window. The man walked my father to the street for a couple of blocks and then led him into the back seat of an orange Volkswagen Beetle, the type of vehicle known to belong to the Secret Service. The driver drove them away. We never heard from my father again. He was 48 years old. Yesterday would have been his 102nd birthday. My father had intended to emigrate to Israel with one of his brothers in 1951 during the Tasqit, the mass immigration of Israel to Israel. He canceled at the last minute to remain in Baghdad to care for his parents and his younger brothers and sisters. His father was blind. He also applied for a family visa to the United States in the early 60s. My mother and the daughter of Azuri Shamash, Alawa Shalom, who was abducted 4 days after my father, made 2 trips to a detention facility to inquire about their whereabouts and hoping to drop off packages of food and blankets. They were rebuffed both times with claims that there were no detainees by those names. They were told that if their relatives were missing, they must have escaped to Israel. Furthermore, they were warned that if they returned a 3rd time, they would risk arrest. My extended family is grateful to my father's sister, Samra Shamash Gottlieb, who together with her late husband, Dr. Bernard Gottlieb, have graciously sponsored the End of an Exile exhibit, unveiled today in memory of my father, Shaul Baruch Shamash. We all hope that this exhibit will serve as a springboard to additions to it by members of the Iraqi Jewish community here in Israel and abroad. We also hope that this exhibit will help to educate future generations. We cannot afford to lose the important testimonies and stories of the Jews of Iraq. Our lived experiences and sacrifices are an integral part of Iraqi Jewish history. I want to mention that there are many books written on this subject. One I recently came across and found to be comprehensive is titled Iraq's Last Jews, Stories of Daily Life, Upheaval, and Escape from Modern Babylon, edited by Tamar Murad, Dennis Shasha, and Robert Shasha. Thank you, Aliza Hamama, for all the time and effort you put in to make this End of an Exile project and the new documentary a reality. The Babylonian exile began in the year 597 BCE, the year the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar II captured Jerusalem. He took the thriving Jews captive and deported them from Jerusalem to Babylon. The End of an Exile documents the final chapter of the Jews in Iraq. Thank you, Lily Shore, for the research you did, for your work on the documentary film, and for gathering the items for the exhibit. Thank you to the curators, Orly Bahar, Levy, and Nava Musafi, for conceiving and organizing the exhibit. Thank you to the Yaron Meiri Orpan group for the documentary film that you're about to see. Thank you to Khan Studio personnel for the exhibit design. And thank you to anyone else I might have missed. My deepest appreciation for your hard work. Thank you for all coming today.